The city's driving me nuts. I wonder what's going on at the cabin. Let's get the heck out of here. I'm done with this city. Hey folks, welcome back to the Winter Wonderland. We're back up at the cabin, and you're never gonna believe this, but I thought I was coming up this week to having a nice, warmer atmosphere. Most of the snow should surely be gone by now, but check this out. We are underneath a current snowstorm. I shouldn't say snowstorm, but it's starting to snow. And yeah, we are snowed in, and the road coming in was completely unplowed. So I think the first thing I'm gonna do is fire up a nice warm toasty fire inside the cabin. I got up here and it's 25 degrees, and which is a lot warmer than it's been all winter. I'm not complaining, but it's still cold enough that things were just a little bit unpleasant if you don't get a fire going right away. So I am gonna head inside and get a fire going, and we're gonna start off our weekend at the cabin. This week, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna concentrate, since it's still crummy here. We are supposed to get up closer to the high 30s tomorrow. I think I'm gonna go ahead and insulate the lofts on both sides, and I think if I have enough wood, I'm going to start putting up the tongue and groove inside the lofts. Thank you, Kevin from Lazy Pond Farms, Hunt and Fish, and Lazy Pond Farms YouTube channel. I was feeling quite faint. You just saved my life. So for today's video, what we are going to do is we are going to go ahead and we are going to install this tongue and groove. And we already had this all pre-cut. I think we did that about maybe a month ago. We pre-cut one side of the cabin, but we weren't able to pre-cut the other side because the material was backlogged. When we built this cabin, we were very meticulous with our measurements. We know that the front of the cabin is an exact match for the back of the cabin, so we're going to use these pieces as our templates to go ahead and trace out the pieces that we're going to put on the wall for the back part of the cabin. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting the lumber right now. I was just headed out to fire up the saw, and I noticed I have a visitor on the hill here. Check this out. I'll show you who we got today. Alright, so basically what I'm doing is I'm just taking the pieces of wood that we already had measured and marked for the front side of the cabin, and we're going to trace it and get a pattern going here. And I'll bring out a jigsaw, and I already got my Milwaukee compound miter saw out here, and we'll go ahead and we'll cut these oddball shapes out with the jigsaw, and then the rest of it we'll use the compound miter saw with. Perfect match. So this is going to be the part of the video where I am going to be burning up all the extra lumber that I have that I don't want sitting around taking up space. So this is the actual 3/4 inch tongue and groove pine that I was using. Unfortunately for this one, I only needed a small portion of the female portion, so there's nothing left there. Female's gone and the male portion is still there, but that isn't going to do me any good. So being that this is scrap lumber, I'm going to go ahead and use this for my backing to put in the boards that are here. This is going to be done with, I think they're 18 gauge 1¼ brad nails is what I have in the gun right now. But you know, you don't have to be real precise. That just happens to be what I'm using, and I'm burning it up just because it's extra stuff I have. So this will go in first, and then after this is all done, you can see I've got this huge gap back here, and because I have blown in insulation, I probably don't have to add any more, but there's such a huge void, and I do have some insulation that I've been waiting to burn up on the job. I don't want the stuff sitting around my house anymore. So being that we already have foam insulation in, this is considered my vapor barrier. I'm just going to burn up the extra insulation that I have laying around, and I'm going to use it to fill up this 4-inch void that's back here. I really don't need it, but one thing I did notice when I would come up here in the summertime is when the sun would be hitting on this wall really heavy during the day. I did notice that there was a warm feeling coming into the cabin. So, I mean, I've got the extra insulation. I'm going to shove it in there, and we'll go ahead and put the tongue and groove on after that's done. And I'm hoping that that'll give me enough void in there, enough buffer, if you will, so that the cabin will stay cooler during the summer months. Okay, to save you the boredom of seeing me just stuff insulation in there, you can see I've stuffed in some R19 insulation. It doesn't have to be real fancy. Just make sure you don't pack it in. Insulation works its best when it's put in loosely. And then you can see I didn't use a level when I put my backing boards in there, but that's okay. I really don't care, because when we put the tongue and groove on, that'll all be hidden and nobody will ever know but you and I. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start, now that the insulation and everything is up here, we're going to go ahead and start putting the backing, or, I'm sorry, we're going to put the tongue and groove on, and we'll see how that turns out. And now the last part is the easy, most gratifying part. You know, you go ahead and you go through all the trouble of installing the insulation and the backing and all that stuff, and this is the part where you actually get to see it come together. What I do is just kind of a helpful little hint. If I was doing a bigger portion of the house, I would go ahead and I'd use a level on all this. But this is up in a loft where nobody's going to really see it a whole lot. So I'm visually looking off of the studs behind the wall here, because I know that these are level. And then if you ever have a little piece of tongue and groove siding that just doesn't want to go in, I always carry a spare board. And I have a rubber mallet too, but I look through the garage and I can't find where it is. But I take an extra board, and you can always just tap on the extra board to make sure that everything seats its way fully into position. So this one here is being a little difficult, so we'll be a little bit more aggressive with it. And yeah, that looks pretty darn good right there. Everything looks level when I sit back and I look at it. So we're going to take this finishing nailer and just sink a nail into the backing board, and just make sure that, you know, you keep it on the tongue, so that when you slide your next piece of wood in, you don't see the nail, and it gives you a much better finished appearance. I don't know what's up with this gun. I had the hose kink. I suppose if my hose was kinked too, I wouldn't want to work. But all right, there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and we'll just follow through with this, and I don't want to bore the socks off of you. So every couple boards I put in, I'll come back and I'll do a little bit of an update. And on pieces like this, where this board was cut just a little too short, I know I'm going to finish the bottom off with trim. So I favor everything up to the top, because that bottom that gets trimmed off, I know that'll all be hidden by the trim. So the bottom is where you get your forgiveness on here. So all right, we'll go ahead and that one went in nice and easy. All right, so excuse the mess over here. You can see we've got some more flooring that I've been saving to put in the loft here. But you can see we've gone ahead and we've got everything in all the way across. So that back wall is finally done. And I'm looking at the camera right now. The camera imaging is a little bit differently. There's a couple of 2 or 3 boards that look a little bit darker, that look out of place, but that's just shadowing the way that things are going. If I had brighter lights on here, it would look a little different, but once we go ahead and put our clear finish on there, that'll even out the colors a little bit more. But there we go. So one side is done, it's insulated, and the wood is up, so we're doing pretty good. If you look over, I don't know if my hand's going to get in the camera here, but in that back corner there, the wood didn't go completely level down to the ground. But here again, I'm not worried about that, because I still have to put another layer of flooring in here, and that will cover up a lot of that stuff. So this is another fun little loft that's all done, and give me a second. I'm going to get off this ladder and I'll tell you exactly why I opted on going with tongue and groove versus drywall or any other material. Okay, so let's take a quick minute to talk about why I opted to go with tongue and groove pine rather than something more conventional or traditional like drywall or something of that nature. And the reason that I didn't go with drywall is our family has had another cabin that we've had for a number of years. My parents built it brand new, and when they had that cabin, I remember 2 or 3 winters over 20 years, they had their heat go out. And it was that first winter they lost their heat. All of a sudden we went back to this beautiful cabin that they just had built, and you look at the ceilings and everything looked like an ocean. It was real wavy. Screws started to pop, and you know, the ceiling, you know, trusses and everything started to move around, and it looked terrible. And I felt horrible for my parents, because they had worked their whole life to have that nice cabin. And so I started to do a little bit of research. What type of material can I put in that's going to be more forgiving in the moments of severe heat, in the moments of severe cold? And the tongue and groove pine is what came to be at the top of my list. That was the thing that I was going to use. It gives you the rustic outdoor look, so that's, you know, timeless. It always looks beautiful, but more importantly, it's real durable. So if you do lose heat, which here obviously the only time I heat is when I'm here at the off-grid cabin, I don't have to worry about these walls going to heck on me. And not only that, but it's so much better, you know, if you want to keep, you know, the place warm. I believe there's a better R rating that I've had with the wood than what we've had in our other cabins that have had drywall. The wood warms up really quick and it holds its warmth. As I've been working here today, I look over at my thermostat that I have on the wall there, a thermometer or whatever the heck you want to call it, and it says it's 74 in here, and you can't see it, but I've got 3 windows open behind you, and it's a comfortable 74. And the wood burner, you know, I haven't put a log on there This is right around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I haven't put a log on there since I think about 8 o'clock this morning. I put one small log on, and it's just a very easy place to heat, very affordable. And if you notice ever as I pan through my wood pile by the woodshed, I don't use very much heat, and I'm up here every single weekend. And yeah, I'm not living here full time yet, but I haven't even emptied a quarter of my woodshed out. And all the wood you see out there is strictly what I use for heating the cabin. I'm excited for when retirement comes. If we do decide to go full time here at the off-grid cabin, I'm really not going to have too much of a wood supply to heat this place, and a lot of that is because we planned ahead before. So if you guys are planning on building a cabin, don't be afraid to think ahead. Yeah, it might cost you a little bit more money up front, but in the long run it's going to save you a ton of money, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm in my mid-50s, and I don't want to have to worry 20 years from now having drywall that has to be replaced and all this other stuff. I know this will be around for a good long time after I'm gone. So thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully this helps you. I appreciate you guys tuning in to Carl's Off the Grid, and it's great to be able to intermingle with you guys, and appreciate your support. We'll catch you next week on Carl's Off the Grid.